Oh, we're live now. We are live now. So if someone from the news is going to.
Okay. Uh, alright. Welcome to the first GOP primary debate. I'm Abadeli from UMG, and I'm here with Andrew Dominguez from Congressional Review and Evan Hunt Political Hub. We're here in Heartland, specifically Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Heartland has proven to be a very important state in this primary, with each candidate fighting to take the folks of this province to them with the polls. On the stage are GOP candidates from highest polling averages to lowest, highest, right, lowest. On the further left is Governor Patrick of Jefferson, former Governor Patrick Jefferson. Next is Representative EMB of Fremont. Last but surely not least is Senator Tawney of Fremont. Gentlemen, thank you for attending. For this first question, we go to the audience. This question comes from John Lampros, a citizen of Jefferson. And this will go to Senator Tawney. Well, first of all, what we'll do is have opening statements. Will be Governor Patrick first, and then going down the line to Senator Tawney last. So, Governor Patrick, please give your opening statement.
All right. Thanks for having us at this debate and allowing us the opportunity to express our views. I love our country, which is why I've dedicated my time to serving in as many capacities as possible in this community. I've been in the mock election community for 15 seasons now and have built up the experience, the values, and most importantly, the commitments that I believe are needed in a successful president. My campaign slogan is simple: change the course. This slogan is not an anti Fitzgerald message, but rather a message focused on moving away from the mistakes of the Washington climate to building on the good. That's where I want to take this country. I've proven to serve in a bipartisan and pragmatic way, working across the aisle, at the same time, always upholding my values I hold dear. Right now, we seem so divided, but I believe I can unite this country while implementing my vision to help the American people. I'm hoping that further into this debate, I can discuss my plans to spur economic growth, create jobs, and protect the most vulnerable, including the life of the unborn. We need a candidate who has a message that will bring together a coalition to elect the first Republican since Malik Diaz in season 20, which is ultimately why I'm in this race. Thank you.
All right, this Representative EMB, your statements.
Thank you, Governor Rapidelli, for hosting this debate. Thank you, UMGI, whatever, UMG. And thank you, people, for watching this debate. All those people at home watching this. You know, recently we had a big event. China attempted to spread their tyranny across the world to underdeveloped countries that were weak and helpless, as America stood by and tried to create a weak peace, a peace with no justice. A year later, we ended up creating a treaty that, quite frankly, was very weak, did not address many concerns that many people in those countries had, and we failed our commitment to defend democracy across the globe. We failed to show that all forces of tyranny, we failed to show them that if you attempt to overthrow our allies, if you attempt to sponsor coups, that America will not put up with it. America will not put up with BS. But we did anyways, for far too long. So many problems overseas. Terrorism, terrible, terrible things. And seeing this, I thought I had to run for president. We are going to get America's image back on track. But we also have many problems domestically. We need to unleash the full potential of America's economic growth. We need to cut taxes. We need to do many reforms. We also... Okay, sorry, I'm receiving a call. Sorry about that. We need to enact sectoral bargaining, a policy that I've proposed that will allow businesses and labor unions to negotiate their own regulations for their industries without big government intervention, trying to tell them what they have to do. Because we have to give these things back to the people that they affect. Same with education. We need to give education back to the parents, expand school choice, create an education allowance, allow people to go to the schools that they want to go to, not force them to go to a government-owned school just because it's the zip code that they're in. Every child deserves an opportunity for a high-quality education. Same with healthcare. If we make healthcare based on a market system while at the same time making sure that people in poverty have access to high-quality healthcare when they need it, healthcare quality will increase, prices will decrease, and we'll have a true American system for healthcare. Same with everything else. We need to make sure that it works for the actual people. And the government has a very bad track record of trying to make everything work. We need to let the people make it work for themselves, because that's the best way that it happens. We really need to return to the basics. We need to return to when we allowed people to make their own path, the American dream, while at the same time providing help to the poor, providing help to the disabled, providing help to the veterans, providing help to the elderly. We have to return to being the city on the shining hill, a place that everyone dreams of moving to in all the other countries, not a place of division, not a place of a weak foreign policy, not a place of a stagnant economic growth. And that is why I'm running for president.
All right, Senator Tony, your opening statements, please.
These are no ordinary times, and this is no ordinary election. We've just gone through one of the largest events in American history where our whole democracy was on the line. And when the end was in sight, our leaders failed us. We're still moving from recession to recovery from our financial crisis so many years ago. But I believe that we are moving on a road to prosperity for all. Now, every promise you hear from each of us this evening depends on one thing: a strong economy. And this is the defining year. Get the decisions right now, and we can have secure jobs. We can have a standard of living rising, and we can have everybody better off. Get the decisions wrong now, and we could have a double-dip recession. And because we believe in fairness, as I will cut the deficit over these next few years, I will protect the police, I will protect our health services, I will protect our schools. I know how this job works because I've done this job before. Tonight, I'm going to put forward my plan to you, the people, on how we can once again show that it is morning again, America. We will get out of this dark age in our history, and we will move forward into the bright future that we hold, that we can all share, that we can all take a part in. But we have to get things right this election. More money for our schools, more money for our businesses, and a foreign policy that states that foreign intervention will be and always will be the last option on any scale. As president, I will take to the Congress a mandate from you, the American people, to get things done and to get things done swiftly. I am not about waiting to get things done for the American people. It's about getting things done now. We've seen far too much waiting in Washington, especially in these past 2 terms. It's time to end the gridlock, break down that gridlock with the wrecking ball, and together we can move forward into the history of our country stronger than ever before. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to make this clear. All statements, opening and closing, will have no time limits, but the following answers and replies do. Okay? Are you all good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first questioning comes from John Lampros, a citizen of Jefferson. And he says, what is your stance on abortion? And what have you done about it in the past? And this, first of all, this would go to Senator Tawny.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Okay, so the question is, what is your stance on abortion? What have you done about it in the past? This from John Lampros.
I have and always will be pro-life. When I was in the U.S. House in my first term, I worked with then Representative Ryan Service to pass a 20-week abortion ban. I was a proud sponsor, and I will continue to abide by those because this is not just a political issue to me. This is a moral issue. I value all forms of life, including those who are not born yet. I believe that life begins at conception. And I do agree that we must have abortion in cases of rape, incest, or harm to the mothers, but I do not believe that abortion is moral. I believe that it is highly frowned upon. And as president, I definitely will protect a woman's right to choose if she is in harm. I will continue to implement the 20-week abortion ban. I believe it's still 20-week unless it was moved down to 12. There will be no options for a third trimester abortion, and we will move forward preserving all forms of life to build a country that is fit for all people, no matter their race, gender, or sexuality. Thank you.
All right, so the same question goes to Representative VMB.
Yeah, thank you for the question,
If you would
Mr.
like to. Do
Epideli.
you want me to restate it?
Oh no, I remember it, but thank you.
All right.
Throughout my entire career, I've been pro-life. Sadly, I happened to not be in Congress during the time of most abortion legislation, but that does not change the fact that I've been pro-life my entire career. But what we have to do is we need to change our outlook on abortion. There's two issues going on that I have with most of the way that we talk about abortion. First of all, we like to put all these when a mother can't have abortion and then they can't have an abortion. What we need to do is we need to look at the reasons. What do we think is justified for having an abortion? If we think that health of the mother, rape, and incest, as terrible as those things are justifiable causes for abortion, then those should be the only things that you should be able to get an abortion for, and remove all these 12-week and 20-week bans, and just have it where even if it is the third trimester, that if you're rape, incest, and health of the mother, then we allow a mother to get an abortion. Because the time does not matter. Life begins at conception, so it really does not change anything what the time is, if you believe that. I am a strong believer that life begins at conception. And the second thing is this. We have, I'm pretty sure it was most abortions are actually because of unintended pregnancies. What we need to do is we need to teach, and I'm not a big, I don't support theocracy, but we need to tell people, look, in education, like sex ed, if you don't want to get pregnant, then it may be a good idea to abstain from doing certain activities. And if you aren't going to abstain from doing those activities, at least use protection. Because a lot of people, they do things, they make mistakes, and then they have something that they have to deal with. And it's a very sad thing whenever some people think that the solution to that is an abortion. Like Bill Clinton said, and this used to be a big thing to the Democrats, and the left used to think is that abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. The problem is this: abortions are not rare at all, and actually they're not even that safe for the mother. So thank you.
All right. Any rebuttals on that? If not, we will move to Governor Patrick.
Okay. This issue is an issue that is so deeply important to me. I'm a Roman Catholic, so I understand the importance and the value of life. There are two components to this question, what we've done and what we intend to do. Everyone on this stage is pro-life, but however, I'm the only one up on the stage that actually wrote the current abortion law, which is a 12-week ban, even when it wasn't politically beneficial to myself. I was the one that got it passed by one vote, and that is why the president that signed that law and the senator that co-wrote it have both endorsed me, simply because we are the most pro-life candidate in this race. Congressman Yimby likes to point out that he's pro-life. However, while that law was being bashed by Democrats last year, Congressman Yimby jumped on the bandwagon and actually advocated for a more lenient 20-week abortion ban. The congressman has since changed his mind on this issue, including some other issues too, but it still demonstrates his inconsistency on this issue. The next component is about what we will do. I'm the only one on this stage that has a plan for this. Unfortunately, Senator Tawney did not mention it in his platform, and the congressman didn't have a platform until today. But it still doesn't provide a comprehensive plan to decrease the abortion rate, which is why, if I'm elected, we are going to support life while enacting policies that help women and pass legislation to expand access to support. This will directly reduce the abortion rate, and at the same time, I will bring a family-oriented, values-driven, and faith-based administration to Washington, D.C. This record and agenda that I provide is exactly what the Republican Party wants in a nominee, and that is why I am best suited for the role.
All right. Any rebuttals?
Uh,
Please speak up or forever be
I would like
silenced.
to rebut that.
You may. You have two. Wait. How about this? We'll do 45 seconds.
Thank you. We love false statements, but first of all, so yes, my opinion on the abortion issue has changed. As I just said, there's no reason we should have arbitrary time limits, because life begins at conception. Instead, we should look at reasons why, and it's life, it's health of the mother, rape, and incest. And so I think we should allow abortions for those things and nothing else. That's my opinion on this issue. And also, about if you want to talk about platform, all I'm going to say is this: I said on the post whenever I released my platform that is not completely done yet, which is true. I'm a congressman. I have a job, so I've been working on legislation. I've been fighting for my constituents at the moment, and so that is true. The platform is not completely done. We are going to be adding more policy to it. But it is nice whenever you agree to not.
Okay, your time
do
is
attack.
up.
So,
Rebuttal, please.
And
You
I
may rebut.
do.
Go ahead, Senator Tawney.
I agree with everyone up here that life matters, but I found it quite hypocritical that the representative said that he's been fighting for his constituents when I can't find a single bill that he's proposed this term. I mean, he ran for
I haven't
Congress.
proposed any bills.
Okay, if you're not proposing bills, you're not fighting for
I
your
was being
constituents.
sarcastic, Senator. I was being
Okay.
sarcastic.
Last time I remembered, it's my time. I proposed over 10 bills just this term, and I will continue to propose more legislation as president.
All right. So Governor Patrick, did you want to respond to this?
Yes. Well,
Okay, you may.
what
35
the congressman said was that he pretty much has changed his position, but let's also look about his record, what he's done. He says he's the most pro-life person on the stage. Well, if he truly was, why was he a Bull Moose Party member which advocated for repealing my bill? And why did he vote for one of the most pro-choice candidates and was the deciding vote in season 27? Let's actually move forward with a candidate that actually has the work done and has a plan forward on this issue. This is what I've done, and this is what I will continue to do as president.
Can I rebut to that?
Yes, you may.
Listen here, Carica Hall. The fact of the matter is that people can change on policy just like they can change their names, just like they can change their identities. So, look, I was once a supporter of Robert Sanders. I have since changed. I'm actually running. He's the vice president on another candidate's ticket, and I'm running against that ticket. So, if you're going to try to accuse me of being some leftist, radical socialist, I think you're mistaken. Also, I never claimed to be the most pro-life candidate up here. I think all three of us are equally pro-life, and I think all three of us are around the same on the abortion issue. So, look, I came here to have a good debate, to discuss policy. I'm not trying to get personal with anybody. And,
your time's up.
Yes.
Okay, can I rebut?
Yes, you may.
Okay, so I agree with Dave. I think that we should have a Republican candidate that is pro-life and that will defend life. And he says that you can change your opinion on an issue eventually. I simply don't agree. If you look at his record, he's changed his key position on not only abortion, not only on his party, but also on economic policy. You cannot call yourself an anti-capitalist and expect to have said that in the past and expect to be the Republican Party nominee. Look, I'll support the Republican nominee, whoever it is, but let's make one thing clear. Republicans take a huge risk if we elect a former anti-capitalist and someone that has supported a far left party in the past. This is simply not the way that I think that the party should move forward.
Oh,
I would
time's
just
up.
like to say one
Okay,
more thing.
yes, you
So,
may, and we'll move on to the next
can I just say
question.
one more thing? Okay, thank you. So, in season 29, I actually was the Republican Party nominee, and despite having very little endorsements, no party organization, I lost by 4 votes to a very, established,
You ran
full
against
of
the most
resources, full of
unpopular
endorsements,
president in modern
and not
history.
only that, Brett, you so care about the Republican Party. Why did you establish the Independence Party? Why didn't you reform the Republicans? If the GOP is just you're always your true love for your entire career, the Independence Party doesn't really show that you've been loyal to the GOP your entire time. So, so
So
yeah.
He
this brings us into the next question. I'm going to move on because this has gone on
he
way too long.
he just first of all, he wants to talk about who's actually contributed to the Republican Party. Let's talk about the person that helped flip 2 Senate seats last year. Let's talk about the person that built up this party and started bringing this party back into to become a major party. Let's talk about someone that has consistently voted in for Republican candidates that align with their values and not against someone that was pro-choice. I mean, that election changed the course of Mac history, and I think that
Move on because this is
really
Yeah, I'm pretty
disappointing.
sure we're supposed
we're
to
gonna move
move on.
Excuse me. I would like the time back. So, this brings us into our next question, which is loyalty. Both within the last year, Senator Tawney and both Governor Patrick have been at the Democratic Party once within the last year. How can you prove to Republicans that you are there for them and you will be governing as a Republican? This goes to Governor Patrick.
On this issue, the Democratic Party at one point was the moderate party, which is something that I align with. But you also have to look at my platform. My platform simply does not fall under one ideology. I was a Democrat and I was an Independence Party member, but that's because at one point the conservatives were much more that the Republicans were much more extreme. Rather, I joined the parties that I felt were the most moderate, and maybe not even moderate, but much more pragmatic, meaning that they're willing to work with all sides. The reason why I came back is because our leadership was able to successfully reform the party. However, if you look at both my opponents, they were actually much more recently in the Democratic Party or in an opposing party. That'd be Senator Tawney, but his values, I will say, is much more in line with the party. But I've never been a part of a far left party, while Dave has. If you want to look at the record, I've consistently been aligned with the party, and I'm proud of what the GOP has become, and that is why we are going to be successful in the upcoming presidential election.
I would like to.
This goes. We're having Senator Tawney do his first, and then you'll go. Rebut. Okay. Senator Tawney, your statement.
Thank you for the question. It's true that I was a member of the Democratic Party for a large part of my time here in mock election, but when I first joined this community, I was a Republican, and that was Republican because at that time, Republicans cared. Republicans were devoted to taking back seats. They were devoted to sticking to their values. And after a certain point, the GOP started standing for that. They stood down in seats that were winnable. They didn't stick to their values. They voted in favor of progressive legislation. They sold out their values to Washington. Well, when the GOP had a resurgence, and I actually saw with my own eyes in the Senate chamber that Republicans were sticking to their values. They were shooting down progressive legislation. They were saying no. They were filibustering anti-business, anti-people legislation. I said, I think it's time that I return to the party of the people once again. Because the Republican Party, in my eyes, has been the party of the people. Except when the leadership for that long, long time in the GOP was leadership that wasn't devoted to actually fighting. They were floaters. And now, with this GOP, I believe that we are stronger than ever. I believe that this is our prime chance to take back the White House with the right nominee, which I believe is me. Thank you.
All right. So, Senator Tawny, no, not Senator, sorry, I'm sorry, Representative Yimby, would you like to respond to statements made by both
What was
candidates?
the question again? Well, I'll respond to the statements, and then I guess I'll answer the
The,
question.
the question wasn't really directed toward you, but it could
Okay.
be since we'll Moose Party if you want to.
So look, I'm going to say this. I have great respect for Governor Brett Patrick. I like to say, kind of surprised he made a radical socialist his lieutenant governor. But that's if he wants to do that type of stuff, he can do that. I served as his lieutenant governor, and he appointed me to that. I'm kind of surprised he'd appoint someone that was so disloyal to the party and such a radical socialist as his lieutenant governor. Pretty crazy, if you ask me. But look, no. It is true that I've not always been in the Republican Party. No one up on the stage has always been in the Republican Party. It is true that I have supported candidates that did not always, I guess, align with the GOP. And here's the thing. I'm the only person up here that's actually ever been the GOP nominee for president. To me, that should show something. Well, maybe not. That might be incorrect. Sorry, my bad. But what I will say is this: people can have slight changes on policy. I'm still center on economics. I admit to that. I was center, slender, lean left. Now I'm center. But look, we have to have an America that works for everyone, and my platform does that. My platform aligns with the GOP. I've always been a Republican at heart. And so I think everyone else up here has always been a Republican at heart. So I think all these attacks and these smears are very counterproductive. I think what the people want is they wanted to see the policy, they wanted to see electability. They don't want to see all these fights. I don't think that's what's good for America and what's good for the party.
All right, any rebuttals?
Rebuttal.
Okay, rebuttal. Senator Tawny.
Okay. I find it very funny that the congressman says he's always been a Republican at heart, because to my knowledge, for a very long time, he was a self-described distributist. The distribution of wealth, that is socialism. So you are not a Republican at heart, you are a socialist, and then you now go on stage and call the governor, the former governor of Jefferson, you attack him for having a more left-wing lieutenant governor, even though you took the words of Robert Sanders, John Oberfeld, Grover, and you took those and you made that your ideology and distributed them. The distribution of wealth. That's not Republican.
I would like to
and that is
totally
not
agree with
American.
that. I would like to totally agree
So,
with that. No, I'd like to
to
rebuttal.
I go now.
I
go now.
would like
a
to
moderator.
rebuttal.
A moderator needs to speak.
All right. Just to say something, even if, you can challenge about Dave's past, that's public opinion, but distributism is not the distribution of wealth. It's not the same. It's not the same concept. Distributism is meant to be an alternative between socialism and capitalism, so it's inaccurate when
he said he supported the distribution of wealth.
Okay, so can I say something? Listen, so Jacob, I respect you as a friend. First of all, you know my policy.
Okay, can I go?
No rebuttal.
Okay.
Where distribution of wealth is another economic policy.
And he also described himself as a classical fascist.
Well, Jacob, you know something? Jacob, you nuked Canada, so there.
Okay,
I
can
didn't. If there's a question, I'd
can
be
I go now, please?
We should move on.
Can I go now? Because
Well,
For the
record,
yes,
though,
we'll allow you
Jacob
to go,
did
but
not
that
authorize
whole
the nuke
debacle
Canada.
leads us into our
That was the
next.
Secretary of Defense.
Excuse me. I would like to. This will be my last question for a little. So, Governor Patrick, you have 45 seconds.
Okay, let's make one thing clear. Yimby likes to point out that he's been the only Republican nominee. Well, number one, that's false. Jacob's also. Well, let's look at the people on this stage. Who's the only one that said he was an anti-capitalist? Who's the only one that went with Democrats to support more lenient abortion measures? And who was the one that joined a far-left party that was headed by our Green Party opponent, essentially the Green Party of the past? Look, we need someone that has true, consistent Republican values, which are based around pragmatism and working and right of center. Me and Jacob offer that. I'm hoping that if UMB is a nominee, he offers that too. But we have to look at the record, and the record between me and UMB is stark, and there is a clear difference.
Your time's up. All right, so the last debacle leads us into our next question of, first say the past. Another question of the past. Representative UMB has described himself in the past as a classical fascist. And Senator Tony, during his last term as president, also nuked Canada. And
Wrong.
okay, so elaborate. I'm trying to get one that will level this playing field out a little for you guys. Something against all you. So, Governor Patrick, you have lost many presidential elections. Why is that? Why do you think you can win this one? That's really all I could think of for you guys. So, Representative VB, go first.
So, what was that? A year and a half ago, I was 14. I was exposed to radical elements of the right on Instagram. I was naive. I did not know how to think for myself, and I believed some things that I do regret. I guess some of my earlier times in Mac I do regret. I don't think, and at the same time, I'm not going to use this to attack somebody. I can only answer for the actions that I have committed. And I'm not proud of all the actions in my life that I've committed. I don't think anyone up here can say that they're proud of every single thing that they have done. So yes, that is true. I have, over a year and a half ago, in real life time, which is about like a century in Mech or something. It's a long time. I held some beliefs that I do not currently hold now. I find those repulsive. I find them immoral. They're against my faith. They're against everything I hold dear to my heart at this point. So I don't think this should be. I think it'd be very petty, to say the least, if someone were to, make this into a big debacle.
Okay, so I would like to elaborate on the question to Governor Patrick. I would add to it since it doesn't seem like I leveled it out very well. So you have also been accused of running multiple alts, but we'll get back to that in a second. So right now, Senator Tony, would you like to respond?
I would. It appears that the congressman is not running to be our commander-in-chief. He's running to be our liar-in-chief. Because up to 3 months ago, he was a self-described Leoist. And if you don't know what Leoism is, it is a pro-Confederacy fascist far-right division of the Republican Party. He was the owner of an account on Instagram called
That's not.
Lord of
I did not.
Okay. No, you did. He is lying to all of you. He's gone from the far left to the far right. I'm the only one, I guess you can count Brett too, on this stage who has stuck to their centrist values their whole time in Congress.
Okay.
I have always been a centrist.
Okay, I would like
I would like to get a response to the question I asked to you. What was your a response on the allegation that
That didn't really seem to have to do anything with Canada, just to be fair.
Okay, I would like to clear up this whole situation by explaining the whole story.
All right, you may.
That day, I believe it was a Wednesday or a Thursday, I was at school and I had tests all day, so my phone was going to be taken up. So I had no opportunity to get on my phone until school was out. The then Secretary of Defense, acting Secretary of Defense, Aaron Steeman, when I got on my phone, I had over 20 texts of himself informing me that he had created something called the War Wheel. It had landed on Canada, and he had posted that nukes had been launched. Well, I immediately got very mad or pissy at him, and I immediately texted owner Adam Evans and asked him to remove it from history, because that is completely unacceptable what went on. I have always been a non-interventionist, someone who believes that intervention and attacks on other countries is undemocratic and un-American. So I had no part in the bombing of Canada. I asked for it to be removed from history because of how much damage it would do to our country. So no, I had no part in that. Anyone who says I does is lying to you.
So we'll move on to Governor Patrick. So the two things are, first of all, you've been accused of writing multiple alts, one of which including Kara Cahill, and also the loss of many elections. Would you like to respond?
All right. Well, first to add on to Jacob's point, Jacob is exactly right, and what he's saying is true. So I think to bring that up when it's been voided is completely wrong. Secondly, my opponent earlier in this debate said, listen here, Kara Kahali, I'm going to make one thing clear. I've always vehemently denied these allegations. I actually went under oath to the Joint Congressional Committee on Judiciary-Related Matters and under punishment of perjury if I were to lie. I would have lost my governor's seat. I would have lost all that. And I testified that I never ran with any alt, which is directly related to Kara Kahali. This is a narrative that was stirred up by, and continues to be, Robert Sanders and his crew. Dave clearly is playing into their narrative. He wants to make me look bad when it's clearly been debunked. I testified under oath. There's no evidence. And he decides to continue to traffic in lies, smears, and innuendos. It's not only him. There's a few others. But he has just done so in a Republican debate. I find it quite ironic that he preaches party unity nearly every time he tries to flip one of me or Jacob's voters. But on a debate stage, he continues in lies, smears, and innuendos because he cannot challenge the argument that Jacob and I are providing. And I think that's a huge problem that he has brought up. And now, if you want me to talk about the electability or no.
You addressed that enough, and I think the time's about out. So we'll just move on to rebuttals if you want. Is everyone okay with that? Senator Tawny?
Sure.
Okay, you want to do that? All right, so any rebuttals, please
I would
speak.
like to say two things. First of all, listen, the Leoism thing, Jacob, you have your times, you have your dates messed up. The latest I was doing the Leoism stuff was a good 8 months ago, and I can actually provide evidence for that if you want me to, like screenshots from Instagram and the likes. I can release a whole big report on my involvement in Leoism and when it ended, which was a good plus 8 years ago. And also, no, the Leoists were not pro-Confederate. They're basically just a bunch of internet trolls that wanted to mess around with conservatives. But I do regret my involvement. They're not racists. They troll a lot. And Jacob, you can't
Oh,
talk
really?
And also, Jacob, I respect you, and I think some of your jokes are funny. You can't talk about making jokes, Jacob. You really can't. I think me and you have both
What you
made
did wasn't a
jokes that we
joke.
both regret, okay? I think we can agree with that. So, and also, listen, I'm not like a big, I don't know what this big thing is. I guess like me being like a Robert Sanders puppet or something. It seems like some people are trying to
All
say.
right,
That's,
your rebuttal is over.
oh, okay.
It's been 40 seconds. So we'll move on. I'm sorry, Governor Patrick, and then we'll go on to Senator Tawny for rebuttals, if that's fine.
I mean, I just want to put my issue. Well, do you want me to speak about electability or just rebuttals?
Just rebuttal.
Okay. So I just want to put these issues to rest. Jacob and I's issues are pretty much nonsense. Pretty much UMB. I mean, I think that the best thing for this race is to put personal issues or issues that are false aside. That's pretty much all I have to say, and I think that's what's best, not only for this party, but also for this country.
All right.
Can I have a rebuttal?
Yes, you may. Sure.
This isn't necessarily a rebuttal, but I'm just asking personally that we can finally move on to policy talks. I'm tired of having to deal with personal attacks and having to slander people in their records. I'd like to move on to policy, and I think
All
that's
right.
what
Well, are you
people
guys
want.
okay with an electability question?
Could I ask
Yeah.
a question?
All right. I'll let you ask the next one. Okay, Andrew. Okay. Promise you.
All right. I'm on the phone with a voter. Hello, I'm Lindsey Graham, South Carolina. Got a farm down there. I would like to ask the candidates what do they think about agriculture and how they will help small farmers like me.
Jesus.
Okay. It goes to
Goes first.
Senator Tawny first.
Well, I don't know what his name was, but thank you for the question. And I think
My
your
name's
struggle.
Lindsey Graham.
Thank you, Lindsay. Your struggle is one that I've gone through myself. When I was young, I worked on multiple farms in my agricultural area, and I understood the struggle. Rising property taxes, less subsidies, and less support from the government for the people that are the backbone of our trade and of other large parts of our economy. Farmers have long been the people in our country that have allowed for us to prosper, that have done the hard work, that have gone up against some of the largest obstacles like the Dust Bowl, like the Great Depression, and we have came through it stronger than ever before. I believe that now is the time for another green industrial revolution in our farming industry. One that promotes workers, but also allows for more room to use better technology to make things more efficient. One where farmers can actually afford to buy more plots of land. One where farmers can actually afford to go to the market and sell their food instead of just have to produce for their families. I believe in this vision of a new industrial green revolution for our farmers, because now more than ever, in this page in the history books of our history, it is more important that we come out of this presidency, out of the shadows, out of midnight, into morning, to show that our country is strong. We go through challenges, but we will always be stronger than what we have gone through when we come out the other side. Thank you.
All right. So this next one goes to Representative VMB. You can
I'd
answer the
like
question.
to thank you for the question. Like the saying goes, without farmers, no one has food. So we have to make sure that our farmers are able to remain competitive on the world stage and they're able to survive and continue their business. And I'm proud of the legislation that I've passed to help farmers that was signed into law. Um, the Agricultural Tax Reform Act. It cut. So back whenever in MEC we used to have the rental value tax. This legislation cut the rental value tax on land that farmers were renting if they adopted new things, organic farming, humane practices for animals. And the bill could have and it was passed, and it was a great bill. Many people liked it. It helped out farmers, and we need to do something for the farmers again. And now, because quite frankly, the current administration has been very lacking on helping farmers. So one we need to do is we need to make sure that farmers remain competitive on the world stage. We need to work with our allies, try to negotiate us to boost agricultural imports to their countries, our NATO allies, other countries. We need to make sure that our subsidies continue. We need to continue agricultural subsidies and increase them for certain farms, small farms, family farms, organic farms. Because like it is, if our farms go under, if our farms are struggling, then we're going to start struggling because we're not going to have food.
All right. So next is Governor Patrick.
Mhm. All right. So the issue of agriculture is directly related to rural America, which is very much the backbone of the economy of the United States. Rural America is home to like roughly an estimated 60 million Americans, and millions of farms exist there. I have a plan for those types of people. As we've seen, farms and rural hospitals and communities lose population, close down, economic loss. We have to reverse this trend. How will we help rural rural America, and along with that, the agriculture industry? Well, first, we're going to end consolidation of the agricultural sector by reversing anti-competitive mergers and breaking up big agribusiness. This will result in the reverse trend of actually bringing small businesses and small farms back on the rise. What to speak the fact is that we're also going to invest in rural America and their needs, and actually invest in the gap in startup capital for rural entrepreneurs. My plan includes cutting taxes for farmers, which will directly help them and their business and actually work to create a trickle up economy. This is the plan that I have to help our farmers and especially rural America. My plan uh, creates jobs, builds businesses up, and works for the little man and woman. This is exactly what the American people want, and this is what they need.
All right, any rebuttals?
Can I say something?
Yes, you may.
Well, I agree that people that are in our rural areas need more help. And you want to know how I know? Because I am one of those people. I have lived in a rural area my whole life. I know what our people who are supporting the American economy and who are allowing our country to function, how they're being undercut, undersold by lobbyists and big businesses in Washington. I worked with then Representative Harry Crosby, on the Agricultural Accentuative Act, which created new farming districts to allow for more production and more the availability to have more farm animals per unit of land, but also ensure that there is safety when it comes to those, and also increasing more programs for our students to get into the agricultural field. So I have actually done the work in Washington for rural and farming America, and I will continue to do just that at present.
All right, any rebuttals? I guess not. So the next question is from Evan Hunt
No, wait, I'm sorry. Can I?
of Political Hub.
Is it too late? Or I'm sorry.
Too late.
He can go, I guess.
Okay, thank you. And what Senator Tani said is correct. We need to do more to help people, not just in farmers. So we have to help the farmers, but in rural America in general, because rural America is struggling. Lack of access to healthcare, lack of banking, lack of developed communications industry, and we have to help our neighbors and our fellow Americans out. So I propose several policies to do this. First of all, rural rent assistance. So for people under poverty that are renting in rural areas, we will help them out with their rent. We need to help them keep their homes. Stop evictions and all this type of stuff. Second of all, we need to invest billions into rural infrastructure, rural healthcare, and rural communications. We have to get them. We can't keep on treating our urban areas better, giving them special treatment. We have to help our rural brothers and sisters. And I grew up in the city, but my grandparents always loved going out to the rural areas, going out to their house. So thank you.
All right, Mr.
All
Hunt,
right.
the question.
So my question is, first off, all the candidates, have you guys read the Treaty of Greece?
Yes.
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 Okay.
I only skimmed through it because it was released when I was not active.
Okay.
Hmm.
One of the sections of the Treaty of Greece deals with the Chinese re-education camps regarding the Uyghur Muslims. Now, to particularly quote the bill's language, Section 11 of the Treaty of Greece states the living situation in Chinese re-education camps shall continue to be improved and the camps themselves no longer expanded. Now, some have called for a more in-depth look and more calls for China to improve it, and some have called the language in the treaty vague. Would you guys, if elected, expand on Section 11 of the Treaty of Greece, or
Who does it go to?
It goes to Governor Patrick, I believe, because he hasn't went first in a while. Then it will go to UMB and then Tony. So just go ahead. Are you gonna go? Or...
Brett.
Mr. Governor.
Governor Patrick.
Brett, Mr. Governor, your mic is muted.
All right, then I guess we'll move to EMB. So go ahead.
Okay. What was the question?
Evan,
Will you expand on the
Regarding
Treaty of Greece?
Chinese education camps, Section 11, Chinese treaty,
for the Uyghur
blah blah blah.
Muslims.
Well, look, the fact of the matter is what China is doing to the Uyghur Muslims, or what they have been doing, is a genocide. They are rounding these people up for no other reason than their ethnicity and religion, and they are forcing them to go through re-education camps. So this isn't something we've seen happen since basically this is obviously not as bad as the Holocaust, but we haven't seen things to these magnitudes since the Holocaust, really. And it's very sad that we've allowed this to go on for so long, and we have to continue to be tough, very tough on this issue. We can't have any peace with them while they are committing these vast human rights abuses. And so we just have to remain tough. We have to remain vigilant. We have to keep on being outspoken. Possibly, if this keeps on happening, they keep on violating, human rights. Then we, look into sanctions and other things to really force them to stop engaging in these activities, which they're terrible.
All right. So this one go if Governor Patrick's there.
So is it me or Tawny?
You were
Okay.
supposed to go first, but
Okay, yeah, sorry. Okay. So this is an issue that is bigger than the Treaty of Greece. It also goes directly into the issue of China. We need a president that will be able to stand up to China, and on day one, I will start taking action to do so. China has repeatedly violated human rights and had unfair trade practices, including currency manipulation and huge trade deficits. We must shift our reliance on China to more friendlier nations such as, I've repeatedly said, Japan and India, and bring production inside our borders. But this is an issue related to foreign policy. We have to start becoming less reliant on China, and we must stand up to them as well. And that includes standing up to their repeated human rights violations.
is that it?
Mhm.
All right. Then Senator Tony.
You can't call this the Treaty of Greece. You can call it the Treaty of China, because what it is a sellout to the Chinese Communist Party and the Beijing elites. This job of dealing with China requires on-the-job experience. I'm the only one on this stage who has taken action from the second Chinese aggression started. When I was Prime Minister of Canada, we beat the United States. We beat the United Kingdom on responding to China. Within the first 2 days, we had a stimulus bill assented, and we had Chinese aggression stopped. We sent peacekeepers to Southeast Asia, and we fixed the situation, and we secured Canada's global future. If I'm elected president, I'm going to the United Nations, a new revised Treaty of Greece, where we don't stand out to Chinese interests, but we stand up for human rights and for the rights of the Uyghur Muslims. And I disagree with this section of the bill. The Uyghur Muslim camps should not be expanded. They should be disbanded. I will take to the United Nations the requirement that these Uyghur camps are removed, and that we have people inspecting what these camps were to ensure that they are actually gone. And the United States will no longer be the country that is China's little trade partner friend with no benefits. Either we are going to have a relationship with China that is stronger than ever, where we both support each other in free speech, free press, and free religion for every single person, or we are going to stop trading with China and their pro-communist, anti-American, anti-human rights legislation. I will be ready on day one because I have done this job before. Thank you.
All right. So any rebuttals? None, I guess. Okay, so we'll be moving on to the next question, which is from. Okay, this is from a citizen of Caesarea, Luca Benito. He says, which candidate is most equipped to defeat Lieberfeld, the most popular president of his time, in this general election, and why? And this will start with Senator Thani.
President Uberfeld I believe, has been lying to the people for a very long time. He was a two-term president elected as a Republican, and now he's crisscrossed the entire political spectrum. He supports far-left ideas like rent caps. He supports the land value tax, which he did as president, which allowed us to be in deficit billions and billions of dollars because he could not calculate correctly how much this tax makes. I took to Congress and worked with other Congress people to repeal the land value tax and to actually implement a tax system with numbers that work and that actually make sense. President Uberfeld is no longer the president that he said he was. I believe he has been lying to our faces for a long time. And he only ran for speaker, in my view, to try to push himself up onto the national podium to become president. And when it seems as if he's faltering because he picked someone that is not so popular that actually negotiated with terrorists as president, I believe his platform of trying to reach out to places in America that need help is not credible at all. He has lied to us all, and he will lie to us again if he is elected. Thank you.
All right, Governor Patrick.
Yes. So I was actually interviewed by Monique Best yesterday, and she actually asked me a question very similar to that. I think that we should all make one thing very clear, and that is that John is a devout public servant, and we actually have become surprisingly closer as a result of this election. There were three things that I said made someone equipped to lead, which is their ability to serve as commander-in-chief, their agenda, and I believe I also said their executive experience. John has both the executive experience and the ability to serve as commander-in-chief. However, for the last point, which is the agenda, that's where I respectfully disagree with him. My campaign is about a new voice, bringing a new voice to the White House and legislating change that everyone can get behind, people from the right wing and the left wing. And I believe those things are important in an agenda. And I believe I'm the only person in this race that has those at the forefront of my campaign. I think that we are going to have the best performance because people are tired of the gridlock and divisiveness in Washington, D.C. They're tired of Washington not working for them. I'm working to build a coalition that unites all people who want a government truly of, by, and for the people, and that is how we are going to be successful in this election.
All right, next to Representative UMG.
Thank you for the question. You look, when it comes to beating Uberfeld, I think we need to look at the facts. One of the people that is running lost to a guy that negotiated with terrorists. So if we want to put that up against Uberfeld, then we can think about it. Another one, I have great respect for certain people, but their first term as president was not so popular, I'll say. Whenever I ran in season 29, I lost by 4 votes to Ethan Fitzgerald, despite having very little party organization behind me. People not really wanting to endorse me because they think, everyone thought I was the Democratic primary would be the coronation, and they didn't want to risk, and I understand that. And despite that, we lost by 4 votes to Ethan Fitzgerald, just by having very less resources, less people wanting to make graphics. Let's solve that. We lost by 4 votes. And so I think if we want someone that can recreate the same energy that we did have, because a lot of people overlook this. In season 29, the GOP was very energized. And too bad we weren't able to capture that energy, unlike Chairman Raymond Thaddeus has done now with the GOP. But if we want to look about creating a national movement to take the White House, then I think we need to look at some of the things that we did in season 29, tweak them a little, and I think which I have done. And to, tell the radical extremism on both sides that no, we're not going to have this. We're going to have a moderate, pragmatic agenda and an America that works for everybody. That's why I think I'd be able to win this.
Rebuttals.
I guess I'll go first. He wants to say that he wants to bring out my record of losing against Robert Sanders. Well, let's make one thing clear. He lost by 4 votes. Well, he actually lost by 5 votes. That's number one. And that was because I voted for him. Do you know who was the deciding vote in season 27? It was Sheriff UMB, and he voted against the right-wing candidate that would have gotten a right-wing person into the White House. That's number one. Secondly, do you know what's going to be different in the general election that wasn't able to be used in season 29? The succession from the Union and his affair in it. Now, he served his time. He's been
Alright, your
unbanned.
45 seconds have passed.
He's been unbanned, but that's what they're going to use. And I think that's a tremendous issue that will be used against him. That is actually factually true.
Okay. We got to move on to the next rebuttal. Who would like to? Senator Tawny, would you like to?
In respect to the many, many wrong things that Sheriff Gibby has done, I will not comment on any more.
Okay. I'm sure.
I would like to.
Representative Yim-
I like that.
Yeah. 45 seconds.
Look. So I'll just be clear. That is a very foolish thing that I have done in my past. I've actually already talked to Duperfeld, and unlike you two guys, he actually agreed to run a clean campaign with me because he doesn't like smears and stuff, because he's a good person. Duperfeld is a very good person. I have many policy disagreements with him, but I'd say he's a good, moral, upright person. That, and calling him a liar, I don't think Uberfeld is a liar. I'm not up here to defend Uberfeld. I have many disagreements with him, and I think he has many issues himself. But to smear him for no reason, he never did anything to you. He has never said, and he's actually hasn't been running any smears against anybody. And I think he does have material on both me and you, Jacob, and possibly you, Brett, that he could use, and he's chosen not to. So, no, I think, no, let me just say one more thing. I think these smears are very counterproductive. Whenever I came here, I was expecting this would be a policy debate, because that's what people want to hear about. Everyone already knows about nuking Canada. Everyone already knows about Heartland secession. Everyone already knows about these stuff. They want to hear about the policy.
Can I
Yeah, you continue to do personal attacks. Great job.
Okay,
True, I'm the one that brought up Heartland secession.
We'll do your rebuttals and we'll move on to policy, okay?
Can I
Not up nuking Canada.
Okay, you may use your time. Starting now.
Funny, haha.
Okay, I'm gonna have it's gonna be quick. My opponent thinks that pointing out economic policy positions of his and past votes are personal attacks, and for that I simply think he's mistaken. When time came to show his right-wing values, he went against our values as a party. And if he wants to think that those are personal attacks, I think those are mistaken. I've said nothing but facts. I've said nothing but words that came out of his own mouth. Jacob essentially pretty much did the same thing. And I think it's unfortunate that we have someone that's trying to preach party unity and has actually crafted lies and smears against his opponent. I've stated only facts, and I think that is fair.
I'd like to rebut.
In the
Time's
game.
over.
I like to.
And one more rebuttal, we're done.
Okay, thank you.
No more.
So I think calling distributism socialism is first of all a smear. If you know anything about like any economic theory, because I would say I'm the only person up here that intellectually knows about like political theories and ideologies. Some people are kind of basic in their political understandings. Just whatever. So no, distributism is not socialism. Any like actual economist would tell you, distributism is actually more of a right-wing ideology. It's not leftist. I definitely had plenty of disagreements with the Bull Moose Party. Also had some agreements at the time. I think people are allowed to change in some of their. I think people are allowed to evolve and change in their beliefs from 6 months ago. And also no, so calling me a socialist is a smear. I think bringing up the Heartland thing is pretty a petty attack.
Okay. Your time's over.
Okay, well, can I say
So
something?
we'll move on.
One more thing.
This is an action.
If you were so concerned about uniting the right, Brett, why on earth did you make Jay Aries your running mate to go up against Robert Sanders? That's not going to energize the conservative base.
Yeah, because you know how
I made
unites
Epideli my
race.
running mate to go up against Ethan Fitzgerald because I wanted to unite the Republican Party and create a strong right movement to go up against Ethan Fitzgerald. You sold out to the left and made Jay Aries
Okay, listen.
your running
Listen.
mate. A partisan Democrat.
We're going to policy. We're going to policy.
Used my
Okay.
name on multiple occasions. I think I should get a 45.
But I
I never made a
talk it
partisan
out.
Democrat my
If we're
running
gonna
mate.
do this is gonna go on forever.
Order.
Okay, so listen, I know he mentioned your name, but we went on far too long on this
Okay,
subject, so we
can I
have to.
just have a quick 45-second and then it will end?
We'll have to see. Is everyone okay with that? Yes,
Sure.
no, maybe. Okay, sure. Go ahead.
I just want to make one thing clear. I've never called him a socialist.
I'm doing it
Uh,
every day.
and he likes to talk about the electability argument. Obviously, a lot of things have changed. And another reason why he did so well is because, whether we like to say it or not, his opposing candidate was Ethan Fitzgerald, who is very unpopular now and was still at the time. The reason why I picked JR is that we were going to unite my party and we were going to appeal to some progressive in the long run because we were one vote off against an incumbent, powerful president. But I think that this issue should be put to rest. I mean, I never called you a socialist. I only said the words that came out of your mouth,
No,
which was
I
that
like
you were
that.
a distributionist.
That's fair enough. It was not you that was calling me a socialist. It was
Okay,
another
we're gonna move
candidate.
on. Okay, so this question comes from Irish Pennsylvania, which is a citizen of Cesario. He says, "Will the candidates pledge to support a presidential term limit amendment right now on this stage tonight?" And this will go to Representative VMB.
I will pledge to support a consecutive term limit amendment. Yes.
Okay, next this goes to Senator Tony.
I will support a two-term consecutive term limit bill as long as, say, for example, you want to run for president a year later, your 2 terms, you're able to run again, essentially.
Okay, Patrick.
My position on this bill is let it up to the people. That's why I support Andrew Dominguez's referendum in the community. Have a clear vote and have the will of the people ultimately make the decision. And in that referendum, I will be voting yes for 2-term limit.
All right. So what we're gonna do is we'll move on to the next question, which is from Harry Buring, which is once again another citizen of Cesario. And he says, if an economic meltdown happens and the stock market collapses, what will you do? This goes back to Governor Patrick first.
This is an issue that is greater than just the stock market. It also goes into how and who the economy works for. I've said multiple times that I am planning to build a trickle up economy, which includes cutting taxes. As governor, I cut billions of dollars in taxes, which spurred economic growth and created jobs. In New Orleans, I created over 3.7 million jobs simply because balanced budgets, low taxes, and investments directly in the people work. My plan includes investing in every single American subdivision, repealing regulations that hurt businesses or kill jobs, building wealth from the bottom up, and creating over 7 million direct jobs. That does not include the many other jobs that will be created as a result of new trade deals and repeal regulations. A government truly of by and for the people means a government of fairness, support, and compassion. And as president, I believe my plan is best addressed to grow the economy and build the pockets of the middle and working class.
All right. And then Representative Yimby.
You know, yeah, thank you for the question. We have to do multiple things to ensure that we have a stable economy to prevent a stock market crash to begin with. I have multiple plans to do this. First of all, we will expand the Small Business Administration and continue to invest into small businesses, minority-owned businesses, new startups to make sure that we have a strong small business base to have our economy off of. Second of all, I do believe that we need to create an emergency fund for things like pandemics, things like stock market crashes. So we have extra money stored up. So just in case anything happens, second, if people create a savings account, the government, I do think, should create a savings account for itself, so we can have money stored up. We need to balance the budget so we don't have to keep on wasting money off of paying interest on the debt. And also, yes, I agree with, I think all three of us agree with this. We need to cut taxes, cut regulations, unleash the full potential of the American economy. And that can only happen whenever we let people, buy and spend without hindering, their ability to engage in the market. So that's
All
how
right.
we create true prosperity for all Americans.
All right, Senator Tony.
You know, I hate to attack my other candidates, but there is a stark difference between then Secretary Yimby, and now candidate Yimby. Secretary Yimby wanted to work with me on exactly what he just said, essentially an economic backup generator for our country. Candidate Yimby now uses that same idea that we were supposed to do about a year ago. And the funny thing is, okay, when I was president, I wanted to do just that. And then guess who went inactive and then resigned from the cabinet? Secretary Yimby. He told me he wanted to do this with me, and then he resigned. As president, I will actually get this economic backup generator passed that was supposed to happen almost a year ago. I will actually get this done. I will pass a small business stimulus for our small businesses. I will pass a minority business stimulus to encourage more minorities to begin owning businesses and dig their way out of inner city holes that have left them there. Washington has left them there to be poor for years and years and years. It's time to put that to an end and actually bring these people up. Bring them up in society. Bring them up in the economy. As Brett said, create a trickle-up economy that works for everyone instead of a trickle-down economy that works for no one. Thank you.
All right.
I'd like to rebut that.
Yes, you may.
Jacob, that's a very interesting way of looking at history. I actually wrote the plan to get that done. You're the one that went inactive and never enacted it. You're the one that was a very inactive president that actually didn't do that much. I wrote the plan. I have the plan. I can release the. I will actually release the plan. The plan that I wrote. You didn't write it at all. I wrote the entire thing. You didn't enact it because you were inactive. And I actually resigned from your cabinet for two things. First of all, it's very ineffective. You were not giving us much to do. You were being very inactive, and I didn't have any purpose there. It was very chaotic, somewhat, especially with your Secretary of Defense being Logan Rabe and the invasion of Cuba. That was very fun. And then also, I resigned from the House to be appointed. I resigned from the cabinet to actually be appointed to the House. I did not go inactive.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
A ladder climber, folks.
You may.
Well, everything he said was a lie. And once again, candidate Yimby is different than Secretary Yimby. And as I said, he's not running to be commander-in-chief. He's running to be liar-in-chief because he's lied to you constantly on this debate stage. He's the one who went inactive and left the cabinet to become a representative because he's a ladder climber. He doesn't want to put the work in. That's why he's created, I think it's like one bill in this current term as representative. We need someone who's actually willing to get the work done. I believe that myself and Brett are able to get things done because we have. He, on the other hand, has relied and has worked off the back of other people.
Your time is up. Thank you, though. Okay, any other rebuttals?
May I go?
Yes, rebuttal, sure.
I just want to make one thing clear. We need a president that will be bipartisan and effective, and I believe I'm the one on this stage that has actually done the most work to do so. We can smear each other all we want, but at the end of the day, it's about the record. If you look at my record, I've had a bipartisan cabinet on the provincial level, and I've served in a bipartisan and a pragmatic manner as governor at the same time, holding the values I hold dear. We need a president that will do that. I believe I'm best fit to do that. I think that the smear should end up stopping. The personal smear should stop. But I think policy differences should be exposed. But I believe, policy-wise, I'm best fit.
So the next question goes to Andrew Dominguez. You may ask it.
All right. I'm in contact with a person in Massachusetts. Hello, Matthew Bolson. Hello. I'm drinking vodka right now in Russia. In Russia, we Russify, we kill Ukrainians. So I would like to ask fellow candidates what's their stance on immigration, people from other countries, and how about our border safety, border security, and how will you tackle illegal immigration crime? Thank you. Danke. All right, who goes first?
I believe it's Representative Yimby. Then it goes to Patrick and then to Tawny.
and I'm glad this question is actually about policy and not personal attacks. But no, look, I've been very, very consistent on the issue of immigration my entire career, and this is what I'm going to say. We need to make sure that violent criminals are deported, while at the same time creating a pathway to citizenship for illegal immigrants. And hear me out. Hear me out whenever I say this. We're not going to have you go to the front of the line. If you're an illegal immigrant, you're going to go to the back of the line. But we will let you, if you're coming here trying to find a new life, trying to create a new life for yourself, I think we should let you, if you go to the back of the line, to try to become a citizen and try to make a new life for yourself. Because, I mean, really, at the end of the day, this country was built by immigrants. It was built by settlers. Sadly, slavery was part of this. But the people, unless you're a Native American, you came here by many things, but you are, in essence, an immigrant. And we need to make sure that our immigrants, that they're, that we do it in a safe way, that we, have vetting. We have to be tough on, violent crime that comes up from the southern border. And really what I would like to do is get immigration rights groups together, get like ICE together, and bring different groups together and create a common sense solution to this issue.
Okay, and then I believe what did I say? Patrick for next. Yeah, go ahead.
This issue is an issue that is deeply personal to me. My family is pretty much comprised of European immigrants from all over. We have England, Italy, Germany, etc. But at the end of the day, they came to find a better life for future generations of Patricks because they cared about the future of their kids. This is a huge issue in America, and as Yumi said before, this nation was built on immigrants. I believe that we should protect our borders with technology, greater surveillance, and more manpower at the same time, making it an easier pathway to legal status for those already here. We also have to protect Americans from any dangerous cartels or drugs that can come pour across the border, but that's very minimal. I'm for legal immigration, and I understand that most individuals that come from other countries are seeking a better chance at a better life for themselves and their family. But we also want to look at the key problem, the key issue on why people from Latin America are coming up, and that's because opportunities are dwindling. My plan also works with creating a new trade deal with America to help slow down, to help, well, rather, uh, increase prosperity there as well. And I think that's a great plan.
Okay, so I believe you're done. Alright, so we're gonna move on to Senator Tony, if you may.
I believe that immigrants are basically the backbone of our country. They build new businesses, they open new businesses, they help build our infrastructure, and so much more.
Where are you putting that?
And I believe that
Okay,
we
well,
have
I'll
to
go to the
have
back.
a strong border, but we need to have a compassionate country. A country that understands the struggles that millions of immigrants go through to get to this country and fixes itself to better that immigration system. Not make it harder for those who just want to come here to give their kids an American public school education or who want to come here and open up a bakery. Those kind of people are the people that we want in our country. On the other side, there are some people that we do not want in our country that are here to harm us, to harm our citizens, and to do many illegal things. So what we have to do is we have to gather the governors. We have to create an American immigration task force to create an immigration system that brings people up, not shoots them down. We have to increase the number of immigration courts at our border. We have to increase the number of border spots that you can actually go in and work to immigrate to. We have to reform ICE to ensure that they are not racially profiling and attacking certain people based on their race. All these things are so important to allow for an immigration system that is American, that is pro-democracy, that is pro-people, and that abides by human rights regulations. As president, I will do that on day one, gather the governors, and get this situation fixed. Thank you.
All right. So, I believe EMB, have you won? I believe
I'm
so.
sorry. What was the
So,
question?
you've won, haven't you?
No. Okay. Wait. I can answer.
Immigration.
Immigration.
No.
What?
Yes.
I thought we already had
If you
this.
already said
I
that,
already
you don't
addressed it.
need. Okay. So we'll move on to the next question from Evan Hunt from Political Hub.
All right. My question, it goes to all the candidates. What will you do to improve tourism in the United States? How will you focus on expanding in it? And if so, what reforms will you take?
All right. So this goes to Senator Tawny first.
What did he say? Improve what?
Increase tourism.
Oh, tourism. I believe that tourism is a very important part of our economy, especially to our large cities like New York City, Los Angeles, as well as many other large cities. But I think we need to transform our tourism, essentially a tourism process, where we start to bring up these smaller cities that have so much to offer, local businesses, local restaurants, local delicacies, these special things that are unique to these small cities, but they aren't able to get the tourism that they need because we're more busy promoting the same skyscrapers, the same skylines that we see in different cities, when we could see a truly an American skyline in a city that is much smaller but has the same amount of heart. I'm from one of these cities, and we don't have the largest amount of tourism. There is some, but we don't have the largest amount. And I think that's a big problem in America today. So we need to pinpoint these key cities that are on the verge of having large amounts of tourism to bring up their economy, so that way they can build a city that has the money for a lot of the services that they want to have. But we can't do that until we pinpoint these key cities and take to the governors a proposal to begin advertising these cities as the new era and the new future of American tourism. And that is what I will do. Thank you.
All right. So next is Representative EMB.
Thank you for the question. I come from a medium-sized town, Helena, Montana, and we don't have the most tourists. A lot of small cities don't always have the most tourists. They often go to the big cities or the big attractions, or whatever. But we can do things to help some small and medium-sized towns really, show off their heart to the American people and show off their heart to the world. We can, have federal tourism grants to certain communities and certain businesses where we help them pay for advertising or for upgrading certain facilities, upgrading infrastructure, cleaning up trash, make their places look nicer and help them develop these tourist attractions in some of these smaller medium-sized cities. For instance, in some states and some cities, tourism is where a lot of their industry comes from. Tourism is a very important industry to a lot of places, and we can help grow those tourism industries, and we can really, like with everything else, unleash a new wave of prosperity onto the American people. And this is one of the ways that we can do it.
All right. Governor Patrick.
Yeah, I think the other two candidates actually hit the nail pretty well. They pretty much have the same ideas as what I'm proposing. I'm from Dallas, but if you go a couple hundred miles away, you're in rural Texas, which does not have as much opportunity to flourish from the tourism industry. How are we going to build up these towns and make it more open to tourism? Well, number one, my plan invests in every single American subdivision where the local governments decide how they will invest that money. It could be either in the tourism industry, but it could also be used for other economic purposes, which I think is a great way forward. We also got to look at the coastal communities, which are being hit hard right now, which is another great industry in those areas, the issues of tourism. My plan creates thousands of jobs, 500,000 jobs in coastal communities, which also thrive from tourism. We have to look at this from a bigger issue, which is economic growth and jobs. If we create jobs and we grow our economy, those two things are perfect areas that can cause growth of tourism industry. My plan creates jobs, but it also puts money right back in the people's hands, and I think that is a great path forward to increasing and growing the tourism industry.
Okay. All right. Evan, would you like to ask another question?
Can you come back to me?
All right. So, okay, what I'm going to ask you all is something that is very dear and close to the hearts of many Republicans. Is the support for the nominee. On this, can you pledge your support for the nominee of the Republican Party on the stage? And if you do, say, "I will pledge my support to the Republican nominee."
Yes or no question.
Yes.
I pledge
Go
my
ahead.
support to the Republican nominee. I know
All
not
right.
all the candidates are
Next.
perfect. I know everything. Different policy disagreements, but at the end of the
All right.
day, it's important.
There's no need for extra, but thank you. Next, Governor Patrick.
All right. Yes, I will pledge my support to the eventual Republican nominee, not out of partisanship, but because our values are so desperately needed in the White House.
All right, Senator Tawny.
I will pledge my support to the eventual Republican nominee.
All right. Next question, Evan. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My question is, now, a very important subject has come up, is the Fitzgerald administration. Frankly, it is the main reason, one of the main reasons the Republicans want to win back the White House. So my question for you is, what is your opinion on President Fitzgerald, and if so, if elected, would you try to dismantle some of his initiatives, such as FitzCare?
All right, I believe Senator Tawny goes first. Or no, it was Representative UMB first, and then Senator Tawny. There you go.
What was the question?
Evan.
The question was,
Mhm.
what is your opinion on President Fitzgerald, and if elected, would you work to dismantle FitzCare?
Ethan Fitzgerald is probably one of them, for all the hype that he was getting, at least, he's probably one of the most failed presidents in American history. I hate to say it. I don't like the smears, but someone has to say it. Someone has to be tough. For someone that we always go around with such a big ego saying you can't stop winning, I think we're tired of whatever your form of winning is. I think the American people are. And with regards to FitzCare, yes, I do think we need to try something new besides FitzCare. Congressional Republicans have been creating a new healthcare reform bill, and I am supportive of that bill. It's not been released yet. I'm not going to go into detail, but it has a good plan. I have my position on healthcare on my platform. You can check it out. Basically, healthcare, along with any other service, is best whenever it's done with the markets. But at the same time, we need to make sure that poor people, that veterans, and that the elderly and children receive high-quality, universal health care. The working class, we can do things to help them out. For instance, I would support looking into a system where businesses provide, and I know that they do this voluntarily, but maybe a federally or provincial mandated thing where businesses have to provide health insurance for their employees. We need to make sure that everybody has high quality health care, but at the same time, we need to allow the markets to make it cheap, to make it high quality, and the American way.
So, question: did you just say you supported universal health care?
No. So, well, in an ideal society, in an ideal society, everyone would have health care. I think everyone up here supports everyone having health care. How we get there is where I differ from people like Uberfeld and Robert Sanders. What I am saying
All
is
right.
that we leave it mostly up to the markets. We can have
Good time.
mild government.
Okay, Tawny, you may go.
I believe that a lot of the things the president has aimed to do is good, but there's also a lot of bad. I believe that too much government regulation has hurt the economy and has contributed to job losses and the market not being too good. So I believe that we need to not completely destroy FitzCare, but I think we need to allow for FitzCare to have more of the free market involved in it. Allow for the free market to have a say instead of the government controlling all of our healthcare plans. I think that the free market has the ability to produce a lot better care than government run programs could. So I believe that a lot of things the president has done were good, but there was also lots of bad that needs to be repealed. I went to the idea with I went to Roman Thaddeus with the idea to repeal free college and free pre-K, and he agreed with me. He said he was working on it, and so I pitched my idea to help support that to him, and I will continue to do that in the Senate. Thank you.
Okay. So,
okay, may I ask a question?
What needs to go to Brett? Brett
Wait,
needs to answer.
Mr. Tony, you said you did not support a public option or FitzCare?
I don't support, as Mr. Yimby said, universal health care.
Do you support FitzCare?
What I support is I like what we have in real life, Obamacare, but without the individual mandate. So if FitzCare was fit more to a two-tier system, I would support it, yes. But at this current state, I do not.
Okay, we need to go to Governor Patrick.
So you supported a two-tier healthcare system over?
I do not.
Yes.
I do not support FitzCare / universal health care.
Okay.
It's not the same.
Governor Patrick.
Okay. I don't support either of the ideas. Is that better? Yes? Okay, good.
Okay.
All right. So there were two parts of the question. The first one was about the actions of whether or not you support the Fitzgerald presidency, and the second one was more about healthcare and what he's done. So for the first part, Fitz has won 2 terms as president, whether we like it or not. And the simple fact was that we were not energized as a party. I think that now more than ever we are energized and we are ready to take back the White House. That's number one. So to put it directly, yeah, there are some things that I disagree with what President Fitzgerald has done. That's why my slogan is change the course. It's not an anti-Fitzgerald message. Let's make one thing clear. But it's about moving away from the mistakes of his presidency and building on the good. There are some good things he's done, including criminal justice reform that him and I were actually working on before, and it's a major comprehensive reform, and I think that's one of the good things he's done. Now to the second part about FitzCare and about healthcare in general. I'm all about giving families a choice to decide their own healthcare decisions, but the problem that FitzCare has is that it's a one-size-fits-all policy, which is something that I do not support, and I think that should be changed. The second part is that we must also ban insurers from setting eligibility rules to healthcare coverage based on someone's medical history, their condition, their genetic information, etc. That's actually in Representative Navabi's bill, which is a great part of his bill, and I think that's the direction we should go. So to put it directly, I cannot support FitzCare because of the one-size-fits-all policy. However, if those changes start to be made and there's less government involvement, I think that's the right direction to go, and that's the direction that I will go to as president.
Your time's over.
I want to clarify my position.
You may. Go ahead.
I do not support FitzCare, and I also do not support universal health care. I understand that they are not the same thing. I was just saying I do not support either of those ideas.
Okay.
Rebut real quick.
Well, you may use a rebuttal because we have to move on to closing statements.
When I said that I support universal health care, I was saying in an ideal society, everyone would have health care. That's what universal means. Universal is not implying, or at least I was not implying, that the government would take over health care. That's government control. You can have a private system where, as a result, everyone has health care. I think I would expect that everyone here would agree with that, unless you want to require that people can't use health care, which would be insane. Also, there was only one person up on the stage to actually aid the FitzCare bill, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
But if we want real healthcare reform,
okay, your time's over.
Yeah.
All right, so we're nearing to the closing of the hour, and this has been going on for almost 2 hours. So what we'll do, we'll move on to closing statements, and I believe Governor Patrick went first in opening statements. So Senator Tony will go first in closing. You may.
Okay. Thank you to our moderators and to my fellow candidates for standing with me on this stage to bring together different ideas and perspectives to the Republican Party. Whether you're left wing or right wing, you have to agree that what has been going on this last term is not ideal. People losing their jobs, people losing their homes, a Chinese foreign policy dictating what we can do here in America. It is something that I'm not happy with, and I believe many Americans are not happy with. I'm taking to you, the people, and to the White House, a new idea, a new perspective that we can actually change things. This campaign, for me, I know I just said we can change things. I believe change is an overused message. I believe that we can't just say, I'm the candidate of change, like some people have in the past. It's not about being the candidate of change. It's about being the candidate of the people. The candidate who is willing to take up some policies that may not be as popular with other people, but he knows that those policies will actually help Americans. I am running to be that candidate. I'm the only one on this stage. I'm the only one on the stage that has put together a winning coalition and won the presidency. I'm the only one on the stage who has written over 70 pieces of legislation in the House and Senate combined. I'm the only one on the stage who can take to more left-wing members an idea that they can get on board with. Because this campaign is not about being left-wing or right-wing. It's about being for what is right or for what is wrong. I ask for your vote in the Heartland primaries, Cesaria, Fremont, and Jefferson. And if we have that honor to make it to the general election, I ask for your vote in the general election because now is the prime time. Now is the time to act. Now is the time to stand up and say that it is once again morning. That it is morning again, America. Thank you.
All right, Representative Yimby.
I would like to thank the moderators, thank everyone that watched this debate, thank the candidates for coming here and having a debate here with me today. I agree with the senator when he says that it's not good enough to promise change. Change is not good of itself. It has to be moving in the right direction. We have to be doing things that actually help the people, that are actually going to help America, help Americans, help the working class, help the elderly, help children, and help America become more free and a just society. In my platform, I describe my policies that will really put America back on track. We are going to help out local communities pay everyday expenses. We are going to give, the power of regulating the economy, labor standards to labor unions and businesses to work it out so we can create a solution that works for everyone. 'Cause it's not a one-size-fits-all, like some people have said. We have to understand that. We have to have a president that understands that also. I have not been. I don't think you can really characterize my beliefs 100% right wing or 100% left wing, and that's okay. So you have to have someone that can build a coalition because this is a democracy, and in a democracy, you have to appeal to both sides of the aisle. So that's how you get things done. And that's how you create a new agenda that will really put America back on track.
All right,
So
so
that's why I'm
next
asking for your
to
vote in the
right.
primary and the general election.
Governor Patrick, you may say your statement.
Well, first, I'd like to thank the moderators, and I'd also like to thank the candidates for this feisty but interesting political debate. I just want to say I'm in this race to build a government truly of, by, and for the people, and that is only possible if we change the course. Not necessarily change the course from Pitt, but change the course of Washington, make Washington work for the people again. My plans will create millions of new jobs, cut taxes by billions of dollars, protect the most vulnerable, and most importantly, lift all Americans up. I've had this record not only serving in Congress, in the Senate, serving in the US cabinet, and most recently as governor, but I've also done it outside of office. I've worked with the federal government not in any capacity in office because I care. I care about this community, and that's why I'm running. I'm running to fight for the people, and I believe my plans are best suited to help the middle class and the working class of this country. That's why I humbly ask for your vote in the Heartland primary, and if I am honored and if I get the opportunity to have the honor to be the Republican nominee for president, I ask for your vote in the general election. Thank you.
All right, so I would like to thank all the candidates for showing up and debating. And even though, like previously said, this got spicy for some time, I thank them. Now, I also thank our fellow co-moderators, Evan Hunt of Political Hub and Andrew Dominguez of Congressional Review. And
You're
this is
welcome.
this
Thank you.
is we're gonna sign off, and the next debate will be probably next Monday at the same
All right.
time, the typical 3, and we will all see you all in Concord, New Hampshire.
All right. Before we end, would you like to give your opinion about the debate, the moderators, and the state of the race in Heartland?
Not really. I think we're good.
Evan?
Like insight?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, looking at delegate estimates and everything, it points to a Patrick victory in Heartland. However, Heartland, while important, probably not be what constitutes the outcome of the race, rather Cesaria. The Cesaria will largely be a fight between Sheriff Yimby and Jacob. Whoever prevails in Cesaria, unless it's Brett, if it's Brett
All
with
right.
Cesaria, it's over, but if it's one of those two, likely be second place.
All right. Well, I will not give my opinion. Evan said enough, and you will see our articles coming throughout the week. I would like to thank EMB for live streaming, the candidates for joining, having a very civil, yeah, spice moments in there, but very civil debate in general. You did all pretty well. The candidates, good or bad. The people will say, and good luck to everyone in the primaries, of course.
All right. This is UMG and others signing off.